Breaking news. The Ukrainian civil war could be ended with just 2 words. Ukraine's civil war carrying on. Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, was liberated from Russian occupation a year ago. It has been 1 year since the illegal Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Since then, the front lines in Ukraine have been largely restored to where they were before the invasion. Russia still controls the Russian-speaking eastern provinces of Ukraine and the key port of Crimea. The rest of Ukraine is under the control of the pro-Western government. Neither side can tip the scales significantly in their favor. There have been numerous violent attempts. The situation is still the same as before. Given that Russia is a nuclear power and that its leader, Vladimir Putin, is increasingly committed to achieving victory in Ukraine, whatever that looks like, and that Russia is highly sensitive to the appearance of being defeated by the US-backed Ukrainian government, escalation is a dangerous prospect. Russia's illusionary perception of US threat. Furthermore, whether or not it is true, the Russians fear that if Ukraine joins NATO, it will be used as a springboard to launch attacks against the Russian Federation. For these reasons, it seems unlikely that Russia will simply pull out of Ukraine. Putin's autocratic regime views this as a matter of life and death. If Russia sent troops into, and provided political support for, a Latin American neighbor of the United States, Washington would lose its collective mind and do whatever it took to prevent Russia from dominating that country. In fact, there was a time in the past when the United States almost went to nuclear war with the Soviet Union over a similar situation. The United States threatened nuclear world war over the possibility of Cuba becoming a pro-Soviet communist state under Fidel Castro and a base for Soviet intermediate-range ballistic missiles and other forces, an event commonly referred to as the Cuban Missile Crisis. A standoff ensued, the outcome of which was ultimately resolved through negotiations rather than the use of nuclear weapons. Russia sees the current situation in Ukraine as the inverse of Cuba in 1962. Right now, it's the West that's deploying troops to a Russian neighbor in preparation for a future attack on Moscow. Whether or not this is the true goal of the West is debatable. If only the Western world had strategic leaders capable of actual thought, we'd be in a good place. Instead, we have bureaucrats who can only think in black and white. NATO, meanwhile, has ballooned into an ineffectual bureaucracy concerned less with preventing the dreaded Russian aggression in Europe than with ensuring the organization's continued existence. NATO's failure to rally behind the counterterrorism mission in the 1990s and early 2000s is the only reason they're rallying behind Ukraine against Russia now. NATO has been aimless since the Cold War ended. NATO members are still divided over how to respond to Russia. Despite appearances of solidarity, ask the Germans about the economic fallout of NATO's war against Russia in Ukraine or the French about their willingness to risk total warfare with Russia over Ukraine. As a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, many people expected the moribund NATO alliance to finally pull itself together. The alliance's key members are more divided than ever before. And the United States, a country with other global responsibilities and an ocean away, has borne the brunt of the burden of supplying and supporting the war. America has led NATO as well as can be expected, given its other responsibilities and the fact that it has nearly depleted its critical stocks of heavy weapons and other important military supplies that will be needed to help defend Taiwan from a Chinese invasion and better contain an expansionist Iran in the Greater Middle East.